The death of Jesus is something that I would like to talk about because I'm going to be bringing up more subject in the New Testament as time goes on here. It's almost like the way Jesus died eclipses Jesus' birth. I don't really ascribe to the importance of Jesus' death as far as his human body goes. I think the point of Jesus' death is that it was only his body, that Jesus, as a divine entity, which we all are, never actually died. There is no indication that his mind or his soul or his spirit stopped functioning. All of the evidence points to his carnal body dying, and that did stop functioning. The notion that his body wasn't recovered and buried or entombed in a way that we understand is certainly compelling, but the body that he was in when he was crucified seems to have changed, and so maybe he was transfigured again, because when he comes back, he wasn't recognized immediately. There's an interesting thing that happened with his body where it was tortured, then it came back, and apparently Thomas wanted to see the wounds. Why would he want to do that? If you looked at your really close friend, why would you doubt that that friend was there? I don't see how the same body came back. That didn't seem to be the case. Why the body that was crucified disappeared is a mystery. There's no need to remove it unless you don't want anyone to compare and contrast. So in other words, if Jesus came back and he looked differently and claimed he was Jesus, then they would go roll the stone away and say, well, here's Jesus, you're not him. I don't think there's anything nefarious about it. I think that because of the nature of the people at that time, it was important to, let's just say, remove the evidence of the old body and get the old body out of people's minds. Absolutely makes sense to me, because the notion is that it's eternal life. Jesus is an example. He is who we are supposed to be. Remember, he said, greater things than this will you do. We have to be filled with that motivation to be faithful like him. It's not easy to do. So any distractions to that would have been counterproductive to when he came back and said, look, my body died, my mind and soul did not die, here I am. And then he went on to prove that in a variety of ways, not just physically. Did he suffer and die? Absolutely. But it was his physical body. He wanted to be as relatable as possible, even through the most dramatic end of human existence. But the point was, it wasn't about the death, it was about the resurrection. And that's the promise, and that's the goal. Not just to suffer as Jesus suffers, but to be as faithful and obedient as Jesus was faithful and obedient. Knowing full well that suffering for a little while doesn't compare to living eternity in God's kingdom. Living eternity in God's kingdom is much, much more important and is worth striving for. That was the whole point. When Jesus prayed in Gethsemane and when he cried out on the cross, he was distraught, but he didn't stop obeying. So for us, that's the lesson. We will perish physically, but spiritually promises that we will live for eternity.